All right, welcome to Digging for Wisdom. Diggs over here, wisdom over here. I don't know about that. The whiz part, at least. We just had to make a little catchy name for people. There's only 2 weeks of football left. We're in the state semifinals, and games are even bigger than they were before. And there's a bunch of games all over North Texas. If you want to see Munster, then you need to go start driving now. I think that's like 6.5 hours to get down to Canyon, see that squad play. But before we start on this week, we got to start on last week because there was a lot of offensive firepower pretty much everywhere and a lot of these games, a lot of heated games as well. As we found out, if anybody gets on a box score and wants to take a look at penalties, there's plenty of penalties all over the place. But Diggs, what kind of stood out to you the most in last week?
How about this right here? My friends in Peaster Greyhounds, we got to see the birth of a program in a completely improbable fashion. I mean, this was a defensive slugfest. We had Peaster held back to 3rd and 18 at their own 8-yard line with less than a minute and a half left, and improbably they drove 92 yards and converted that 3rd down and then the 4th down, and then hit the big play, got down and punched it in from a yard out. Incredible atmosphere, great game. Peaster Greyhounds made it through. And then a lot of teams took a lot of offense to the things I said last week. I think, Ward, you're good at getting a lot of those places. I think you're the anti-Diggs there. Right. But I had some, a little bit of a swings and misses here. I went a little Jose Canseco-y because I came here and I gave you the look and I said, what you got to do, Highland Park? What you got to do, Highland Park? You got to stop Trey Wright. It's easy. All you got to do is stop him. High safety coverage, easy. And then he just embarrasses me with 653 yards and 7 touchdowns and just maybe 8 touchdowns. I don't know. He quit counting after a while.
Right.
But what an incredible performance. Highland Park, 3 turnovers. Lone Star played a clean game. And then we're talking about Aledo, Denton Ryan, and Aledo just crashed him. Mm-hmm. I was getting to watch some of that game because Nolan had it up on his little iPad over there. They're 8 to 10 yards just beating up Denton Ryan at the point of attack. And then Allen just dominated North Crowley. I mean, that game was not even as close as the score looked like. And I don't know if you had a chance to watch it's kind of a viral clip now where Ray Gates afterwards was just great coaching job, just telling his team, they beat you. They deserve that. You look at that. You shake their hands and just, every time I think I can't respect Coach Gates more, I see a piece like that. And he just has such a big heart and he's such a big picture understanding of the right things in coaching. And Allen had 3 turnovers that game and still beat him up by 2 scores. Just phenomenal job by Allen. Duncanville Waxahachie was another instant classic, but Duncanville scored one more score. And then the DeSoto Willis game, you were there. I got to watch it on the streaming Texan Live. And man, you talk about just an ugly bowling shoe ugly game in many ways. Just back and forth, score fest there. A lot of passion, as you said, in that game. And we're just set up. And then Denton Geyer and Southlake Carroll. Denton Geyer, I felt like they might have had a chance for a quarter. But the thing with Southlake is you got to beat them for 4 quarters. And a lot of teams are struggling with holding Southlake Carroll down. They looked incredible. And we'll talk more about a lot of the things I saw with that. But just kind of an instant look. Man, those were some incredible games last week.
Yeah, there's a lot of talkers on the football field. And you want to, and that's fine. It's whatever gets you going there. But there's an underrated talker on the football field, and that's Brock Boyd. He has some things to say just about every play he does. It's something that these guys feed off of sometimes. Even if you're not disrespected, you're going to Ohio State, you're getting 10 catches a game. You got to put that mode on yourself. You know what? I don't think this guy respects me or these fans over here, so I'm going to let him hear it. There's a lot of let me hear it's in the DeSoto and the Duncanville games, but, 35 penalties in the game that I was at. But I believe we said after that Louisville game against Allen in round 1, I said if they're going to win a state title, it's going to be that defense. And that defense is plowing their way all the way. And they don't need Jeremiah Dowd to do great things, but he did some great things against North Crowley. But he doesn't have to. They can, what'd you call him, Trent Dilfer or something like that the last time? Or maybe he can Trent Dilfer him all the way to a Super Bowl ring or a state championship ring if you want.
But he's got to quit the turnovers. You're not going to win +3 often. But again, that speaks to that defense that was able to pick him up and look good against the North Crowley team. And man, Hayes Cloudy only threw for under 100 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, and Keontae Ingram had to like rush 35 times to get 100 yards in that game. I mean, Allen's defense was incredible. Just next
You know
level
who
stuff.
else's defense is incredible? Them Golden Bears. I mean, when
Oh,
you're
yeah.
shutting out P&G in the playoffs, and it's not a home game for you, you're on the road somewhere. That's something to say. And that's a 28-0 shutout win there, man. I think out of all these, and we're going to go through them all, 5A Division II is it's almost to the point where if it's not Randall and Sock, I'm going to be upset. And I don't, no offense to Melissa, but that's a game I want to see. Randall's speed against Sock's speed. It's going to be incredible. We saw it last year and it was incredible. I want to see it again.
Well, you're going to offend Melissa because Melissa, their fan base is now feel like that they're 10 feet tall and bulletproof this week. And I remember them last year, and they got shut up real quick after not making the playoffs. But they're all back. You know, they're all like, right. Oh, we remember how to anger tweet now. And man, it's like Southlake Cliff. They don't realize what a level they're playing at. They're like, well, we lost to Don Bosco. That's a great resume to have. Yeah, you lost to Don Bosco. Southlake Cliff is playing 4D chess out here, playing North Shore, Longview, and Duncanville, and they haven't played a game within 4 scores of actual 5A Division II at all this year.
At all.
And, I mean, it's not like Region 2 is weak. P&G, two years removed from a state championship. I mean, dominant. Nothing, just nothing.
Exactly. An incredible Carroll squad. They just treated them like they had 230-yard rushers against Carroll. So, yeah, they're playing some good ball. So let's go through some of these brackets here and talk about what we got going on here. Let's start off at 6A Division I. We have our Final Four: Allen, Duncanville, North Shore, and Lake Travis. We've talked about Allen's defense. We talked about Duncanville's offense. Duncanville and Allen. This game is at Mesquite Memorial on Saturday afternoon. Tell me what you think on this one for sure.
You know, we've been, one of our storylines this year on our podcast has been about wanting to see parity, and we feel like 6A Division I more than ever. It could be anybody, and I'm looking at these Final Four, and 3 of the Final Four were here last year, and it's not like Allen is too far off from being a team that's always here. And whoever loses this game has got to play them again next year because Allen Duncanville starts the season next year.
True.
So you got to remember that game. So Allen Duncanville, whoever loses, we're just going to be seeing Allen Duncanville nonstop in that world. Duncanville, I know I'm getting redundant with the style points thing, but the style points lately for Duncanville have just not been there. And a lot of it is them overcoming the fact that they really don't have an offensive identity right now. They don't have that running back, like a Keontae Ingram for North Crowley, who Allen absolutely completely shut down, or a Landon Spriggs who can just tote the ball 20 times. It's basically running back by committee, and everybody can be a part of the committee. If you're a backup quarterback, come on in. Wide receiver, anybody who wants to come in our running back committee can get in there. But Allen, it just seems like they can shut all these things down. And Duncanville, for as good as that defensive line is, teams are scoring on them. I mean, DeSoto put up 28 against them. Waxahachie put up 28-27 against them in their 2 games. Sock put up 28 points against them. So I don't think that Duncanville is going to be able to shut down Allen. So the question is, can Duncanville outscore probably the best defense that's left in 6A Division I? I don't think they're going to be able to do it. I think this game is going to look very much like the North Crowley game did. I think it's going to be like a 28-24 game. But Allen, they know how to execute in these close game situations. I think about the Louisville game, come back in the 4th quarter, the Prosper come back in the 4th quarter. Allen knows how to do it in the 4th quarter. Jeremiah Dowd showed he's a great bus driver, and he can take them and put them in situations to succeed. I know it seems weird because Duncanville, 8 straight years in the state semifinals. I think it's going to be 1 less year in the state championship. Give me the Eagles.
Give them the Eagles, he says. I know the Duncanville, we're going to talk about this more in 6A Division II, but keep your emotions in check. It's good to play on emotion, but make sure you're focused in on what's going on there, and don't get any chippies there, because Allen will take advantage of chippies in a heartbeat. The lower side here, North Shore and Lake Travis. North Shore's playing on that level again. That Dickinson game probably wasn't near as close as that score is, because North Shore got up on them early. And they're taking
talk about what that score means. Like, got to give us DFW parallels, because I saw that and I thought they were going to win, but this was dominant.
Yes, this was a dominant win. That's a Dickinson team has been ranked number 1 in our coaches poll throughout the whole Houston area from probably week 3 on. Whenever Summer Creek lost that first game, all the way to to the end here, they've been playing dominant football, and they've been playing it against good teams. They took care of Atascocita easily. They took care of heck, I forgot the other team they played, but that they've taken care of the ones at the beginning of the season as well. They played Katy in a non-district, won. They beat C. King, who's still alive. They beat them in a non-district, and to not even stay close with North Shore was a bit of a shocker there. And it also tells you to the point where North Shore has really enjoyed playing in the shadows this year. That opening game loss to South Oak Cliff has turned out to be a blessing because everybody cast them off, put them off to the side, and now they're playing through the shadows. Caleb Maryland has gotten a lot better as a quarterback as the season's gone on. They got Hassad Jones. They brought in a transfer at nose tackle from Clear Springs that's been clogging up the running games for the opponents. From what I heard from a guy on the sidelines at the game at Baylor this past week, he doesn't think Lake Travis stands much of a chance against North Shore. He didn't tell me too much about players in that game, but he does think there will be a win for North Shore, so we'll see about that. In the North Shore Island game, I don't know if that's happened in the state championship. I don't think it has, but it'll be sweet to see if your thing comes through. Otherwise, we're getting North Shore Duncanville again, which would be a doozy as well.
May have something to say about it because Lake Travis plays good defense, and they've been playing the DFW area. Didn't they play Martin and Rockwall in non-district, I think?
Yes.
So I mean, again, it wasn't dominant blowout kind of wins, but again, it was like 1 week we see Lake Travis beating Rockwall, and then Rockwall beats defending state champion North Crowley right afterwards. So Lake Travis has challenged themselves. They're definitely not going to go into this game intimidated, but man, it's hard to pick against the North Shore team. But hey, I just picked against the Duncanville team. So, that has been there for 8 straight years. I do not want to see Duncanville North Shore again. Anything but that.
Well, you might be. What do you want to see in Division II is the question, because in that one, our Final Four is Southlake, Carroll, and DeSoto, and C.E. King against Vandergrift. Last year it was Vandergrift and Carroll. You don't want to see the same final again, right? So
I mean, again, we keep talking about, this is the year of parity, and here we go again. Potential state championship rematches here. And Austin Vandergrift, I mean, they got beat up by Dripping Springs the first time they played, and then they just came back, and we saw this quite a bit. That you win in non-district or you win in district, and then you lose in the playoffs. And some of the like the East Bernard game was a crazy, like a 50-point turnaround. But man, what are we going to do with the CEISD team? We can't talk about Flower Mound anymore because Summer Creek is gone.
Exactly, they're out of there, and that's exactly what you said about the Dripping Spring Vandergrift game. I thought that's what everybody thought that Summer Creek was going to get their revenge on C.E. King for losing that first one. Instead, C.E. King throws another loss on them and keeps moving on. Boy, I tell you, that team, C.E. King, we're going to say this a lot, and with these Houston teams, they got speed on top of speed. I don't know how well their defense will play against either one of the top 2 teams there if they make it to the final, but they have to get past Vandergrift first. And we all know that Houston teams don't do so well at Baylor trying to get to a state final game because Vandergrift took care of Summer Creek last year. This year they're going to get C.E. King. King is they're the Cinderella team out of Houston, man. After they lost to Dickinson, everybody's like, I don't know about this squad. They did beat Summer Creek. They beat Atascocita, put their name on the map. They didn't even make the playoffs last year. They were the 5th team out. King would beat them out. So now they're back in it with all kinds of speed, waiting to see what's going to happen with the Vandergrift game. And they'll know who they're playing before that game even starts because Southlake, Carroll, and DeSoto is at 2 o'clock on Saturday at Newsom. What's your thoughts on that one?
So you're saying that C.E. King is the Melissa of the Houston area, 5th place team that's now playing.
Absolutely, that's exactly right.
A team that's in the state championship last year, so that's incredible. But we are paid to talk about the top half, or at least you're paid to talk about the top half. I get Whataburgers for free, which is I'm probably going to put them out of business, but we thank them nonetheless. But look at these scores last week: 51-60, and again, it's been like this the whole playoff road. Southlake, Carroll, and DeSoto. It looks like it's just going to be one of those juggernaut games, but there have been a couple of those games this year, kind of like Argyle and Melissa, like first one to 40, first one to 50. I thought Pottsboro and Grandview was going to be like that, and all of a sudden they're sitting in the 20s and 30s. So maybe defense will all of a sudden get figured out in this, or they over adjust or get a little stiff in their play. But man, I got to watch highlights in most of both of these games. And these are two incredible offenses who play very emotional levels. And Southlake Carroll, I've kind of tweeted about this, and a lot of people have picked up on my comments about this and kind of even taken it to the next level. That Southlake Carroll reminds me of North Crowley last year. The way they call the games, the way they approach the games. I loved, and I talked about it all the time, Eli Reinhardt last year for North Crowley, who's now the head coach over at Hutto. He brought an aggression to North Crowley from the philosophical side, from the play calling side. That was next level. I mean, onside kicks, fake punts, not going for it on fourth down anywhere, 4th and 1 at their own 8. Let's go for it. Southlake Carroll, in their 2 games, I got a chance to watch them on Victory Plus this year, they do that. You know, fake punts, they'll go for it on 4th downs. They have brought an aggressive play calling culture. They'll go for it on 4th down to Brock Boyd, and 9 times out of 10 he will catch it. I love that. I was worried about Southlake Carroll. I was worried about Riley Dodge being too conservative, thinking we got the best team on the field. Let's just slow it down and play kind of a conservative style here. Nope, not with Southlake Carroll. They're going to go for it. And then DeSoto, they have been living on emotion this year. And I feel like it might have even gone a little bit too far against Willis, because 22 penalties, 200 yards, you cannot do that against Southlake Carroll. They will take advantage of that every time. And you talked about how Brock Boyd's going to talk. I feel like they're at some level, Southlake Carroll is going to try to harness that aggression against them, that intensity against them, because I don't know if DeSoto has the ability to quit chirping. I feel like they just can't help themselves when it comes to that. And Carroll is going to play off on that. So I feel like the emotional edge, although DeSoto is going to have more of it, I think Southlake Carroll is going to have a little bit more focused. And DeSoto, bless their heart, they're going to have to outscore Southlake Carroll, because this team's defense is good, but they can't stop a cold. Willis put up 40 on them. College Park put up 34. Go back to the game in Georgia, that got 70 put up on them. Duncanville got 48 on them. So if they can't outscore Carroll, I can't see them winning this game. Are they good enough to outscore Carroll? Absolutely. They may need a couple of turnovers, but do I think over a 48-minute game in the back and forth they're going to be able to consistently do it? I don't think so. I think Carroll is going to take advantage of that and win a close game, but I like Carroll in this game.
And they score so quick too. I don't think that works in their it doesn't work in their favor in this one, to score super quick and then put out a tired defense who right now, Southlake Carroll, every offensive skill player they have it locked in at an elite level. We talk about Brock Boyd all the time, but there's Brody Knowles. There's 3 different running backs. So 2 weeks ago was Parker Harris, I believe his last name was. Parker Lewis can't lose. I can't remember. Last week, Brooks Biggers got 2 touchdowns against Geyer, and they still have Davis Penn. They still have Renda. And the whole offensive line is opening up for all of them. And then you go to the other side. I got to keep talking about Sherrod Baker. I can't stop talking about him, because there's a deal with running backs with me. When I'm shooting a game and I see a running back get the handoff and kind of wait for the holes to open, and a perfect example of that is Cam Newton, which is probably why he gets 38 carries and a lot of times only gets like 140 yards, because a lot of times those holes aren't going to open. And Sherrod Baker does that every single time he gets the ball, and I'm like, oh, boy, this is not going to work out. It always works out. It always works out for 10-plus yards, because he jukes like Jagger. He's got the moves all over the place. The guy's incredible. If he's not your MVP, I mean, what was 380 yards, 7 touchdowns? If he's not the MVP now, I don't know who you're giving it to, especially since he knocked off the other MVP candidate in Jermaine Bishop last week. Keep your emotions in check, and we'll be playing some football one more week. But having said that, Southlake Carroll is just – it doesn't really matter who they're playing these days. They're going to get half 100, seems like, every time they get on the field.
And you talk about Sherrod Baker, if I could just kind of a couple of plays that I watch, his lateral movement. I'm not a recruiting guy, so I don't watch things like what the size and technique. I just kind of watch the football player. But when I see him do things, like I can tell he is incredible. Just like his lateral movement, like he can jump step and just go on a dime. And I watched him do that several times. Like he's stuck. Nope, he goes a yard left on a second and boom, finds that hole. And there was that play that he got open and had Jermaine Bishop closing down on him. He beat him to the end zone. Now he had a little bit of a head start, but that still shows that he's got speed to beat what you called the best player in the state of Texas, basically in a foot race at the end of the game. Usually you don't see running backs able to usually they get caught by the DBs when that happened. Sherrod Baker, not him. He was incredible this past week.
Barry Sanders is. And of course, I think you already knew this, but Boobie Feaster, he's playing both sides,
Right.
100 snaps every single game, all the snaps. And he likes to talk to both sides too. So he's got a lot of talking to do with Brock Boyd. That ought to be. I don't need to find a way to get mics on both of them. That'll be some interesting stuff, or maybe not interesting. I probably have to get the bleep button ready or something like that.
Yeah, get a 7-second delay if we're going to go live.
Exactly. All right, 5A Division I. You talked about Lone Stars, and we talked about Lone Star and Aledo's big wins last week. In the lower half is Port Arthur Memorial and last year's state champ Smithson Valley. Matt, give us the business on the Aledo Lone Star and how you feel that thing's going to turn out. That's a Friday night game up at Newsom.
I don't think it's going to turn out well for Frisco Lone Star. I had to apologize to them, so I may be apologizing to them again.
You probably will. I don't like hearing – I heard in a warm-up interview you said something like 3 scores. Now, you said Island Park by 2-3 scores as well. I just don't think it's going to be 2-3 scores. I haven't even let you get a chance to make your prediction, but I'm stopping you before you do. I don't want to hear 2-3 scores. What are you going to tell me?
2 or 3 scores. Look at what Aledo did to Denton Ryan. I mean, that was 2 or 3 scores right there against an elite level team that beat them last year.
Elite defensive team. It's not. This is above elite offensive team with Lone Star. I think they'll find a way to get it to their playmakers, even if the rush is coming on. They'll find the dump screen may be a part of this offense that works well for them.
But the problem with that is, even let's say that Lone Star is good enough to score, and this is a Lone Star team that only scored 28 against Frisco Reedy. So keep that in mind. I'm thinking about that. They only scored 28 against Frisco Reedy, who's the best defense they played this year. Aledo's even better than that. So how is Lone Star going to have to adjust from what they learned against Frisco Reedy to be even better against an even better Aledo defense who's been here, who's got culture, who's got all of the intangibles? That's what I keep having a problem with, because Highland Park scored 58 on John Tyler, or whatever we call him these days, so put up 60 on Highland Park. So again, Highland Park's defense, that wasn't that impressive when you really kind of factor it in. I just thought that Highland Park being the fourth in the fourth round was going to hop into a level that we hadn't seen before. But again, they just didn't have the defense. I saw it against Plano East when Plano East was able in the scrimmage to just go up and down against them at times. So Highland Park did not have a defense that could play, that could stay with Lone Star, and they couldn't find anything in the film that they could exploit to do that. Aledo is just the complete team. So let's say you are right that Lone Star is able to maybe get 35 against them. How are they going to stop Aledo? Because Aledo was able to just run up and down. Aledo put 33 up on Denton Ryan in the first half before they started showing them mercy. What's Lone Star's defense going to do that didn't even slow down West Mesquite? We're talking about an elite, not necessarily an elite level offense like Frisco Lone Star, but Aledo's got a really good offense on top of this elite defense.
Well, I'm looking at it absolutely. I mean, if they're going to win, it's going to have to be an absolute shootout. It's going to have to be 60-58. And I know you're saying there's no way Aledo's going to let that up. I don't know. Maybe they won't. It's not saying that I'm going to say Lone Star is going to win, but I am going to say I don't think it's going to be a 3-point walk away where you got everybody leaving the stands in the third quarter. I think the things can go down to the wire, at least late fourth quarter. That's my opinion. Your thoughts? Oh, you already gave me your thoughts. I don't care about your thoughts anymore.
Aledo's front seven is just so good. And, and if I feel like they could even hold a player back, and only not ever rush and just have a man over top to deal with deal with Hoyt and Gross, because that's how good they are on the front seven. So Aledo's got some multiple things that I think they can do schematically to even give them a little bit of an edge. I just don't see how Lone Star can go score for score against a team that has only given up 17. This was their highest that they've given up all year. So Lone Star's going to have to do something generational on top of that. And when you look at what they did against Highland Park, that wasn't even the worst game Highland Park has given up in defense this year. So I'm just seeing 2 different levels, Ward.
All right. I'll leave it at that then. What about do you have any insight on Port Arthur Memorial and Smithson Valley? Because those 2 are out of my jurisdiction. Even though they're playing that game in my jurisdiction at Katy Legacy.
It's out of my jurisdiction, but I will. Probably Smithson Valley. I mean,
that's your
probably.
way of saying move on, and move on we shall. All right, let's talk about South Oak Cliff and Melissa. We talked a little bit about how I'm disrespecting Melissa and how you've disrespected him in the past. But come on, we're playing Sock right now, and Sock is on a mission to get that thing back against Randall. Those are the two best 5A teams in the state, Division II. We're waiting for that matchup, but you got to give Melissa their credit, especially Drew Chappa, who had to play a quarter or a half, went 5 for 5, threw a touchdown, kept him in the game for Brett Holloway to come in, tag in. I don't know if he was holding the rope when he tagged in, but he tagged in, a legal tag, ran for 130 in the second half, and just carried him to victory. Again, I've always said Brett Holloway is probably the unsung guy now. He's getting sung. People are singing his name now, but he was unsung throughout the whole year.
You know, he is the unsung hero. He did have that hot tag in there. And people say you should never apologize for victories, and I agree with that to a certain extent. Melissa, this was not a dominant win over Argyle by any means. Argyle missed a makeable field goal, which would have given them the win in this game after their kicker had made 4 field goals in this game. And then on top of that, it is the first time this year that Argyle almost always turns those into touchdowns. You know, if you kind of look at that, if they would have scored 3 of those 4 as touchdowns, they win that game comfortably. If Melissa, you know, you could say this and that about if Melissa would have had Brett Holloway the whole game. And he did have an impact. He did run for 130 yards in that game. And he made the most important score in the fourth quarter late in that game. But I just don't watch this game and go, man, Melissa just beat up an Argyle team.
I don't think anybody's saying that. I'm saying they upset an Argyle team to move on.
They did.
I mean, that's an upset in my mind.
It is an upset. And Argyle has to look at that and go, well, if we would have done this, we would have done that. Melissa had to play out of their minds to win this game by 1 point. And they played each other in 22 and 23. And South Oak Cliff took care of them, you know, pretty handily. One game I think was a 1-score game, but the other one was a 3-score game. And South Oak Cliff has not played a game in 5A Division II this year within 4 scores. Right. I think South Oak Cliff is, and people on Melissa are chattering right now. I see Coach Todd on the Facebook groups. He's getting mad about it. And when Coach Todd gets mad, you probably get an extra score.
Exactly. That means trouble. And they get to play this game on natural grass. How about that? Over there at the Cotton Bowl. That's an interesting choice there. They get the little natural grass. I'm hearing teams are probably going to start going back to grass from that the stuff they're using now, just because that stuff heats up good. I mean, my guy put a camera down at the South Oak Cliff, the Southlake Carroll and Geyer game, and you could see steam coming off of it. It wasn't even a hot day. It's just that stuff gets hot. But anyway, they're going to play at the Cotton Bowl. It's going to be interesting. Richmond Randall, it's one of those games. It doesn't really matter where they're going to play that game. They're playing at the Alamo Dome. Bernie's going to have a crowd there. But the speed on offense and defense, I can't wait to analyze this game next week because that's going to be a sweet state tough fight. It's a Division II. Is that Saturday morning or is that Friday night? I can't really remember. I think it's Saturday morning because I believe
it was from last year. So just think about what happened last year.
Aledo and Smithson Valley was in the morning last year. So yeah, that game will be a Saturday morning game, 11 a.m. Boy, that's going to be a sweet game. Man, get there early because that place is going to be packed for sure.
But I do have to say, and I see this year after year, the teams like Bernie, the teams like Austin Vandegrift that we kind of write off, they've been here. They've been to the state championship in the last couple of years. So it can't be an instant write-off with these teams.
I write them off because they played each other last year, and they had no problem with them.
But again, Bernie has been to the 5th round or 6th round 3 straight years again. It's just like you just can't completely write them off. I know Richmond Randall is next level. Landon Callis, doesn't he have another name too?
Williams in the middle there.
Got Landon Williams Callis or
there
Callis
you go.
Williams?
That's it. No, you had it.
I'm trying to show my Houston name knowledge. I got 2 out of 3, and as Meatloaf says, don't be sad because 2 out of 3 ain't bad when it comes to Houston names. I just feel like Bernie, especially Iowa Colony. I mean, they did not blow them out. Iowa Colony pushed them a little bit. What did you see when you were breaking out that game?
I was going to say, I was very similar to the last time they played. These are 2 very good young or new 5A Division II teams. Remember last time they played, Iowa Colony was up 21-0 because LWC had fumbled twice, and then he took their stupid gloves off, and he never fumbled again, and they came back to win by a touchdown. Same thing in this one. They made some mistakes at the quarterback position, threw a pick 6 to get them back into it, but it's one of those deals. When you want to close this thing out, you give it to LWC. I think they said when you want to win, put Booby in. When you want to win, give LWC the rock, and he's gone. and that's exactly, he got that last touchdown there. So I mean, they know each other. So that game was good. And Bernie and Richmond Randall know each other, and Richmond Randall and Sock know each other. These are all guys that know each other. They're going to have some kind of trick up their sleeve to get by them. I still think Randall wins by a couple scores, but that's just me. And a couple scores to me is like 8 scores to Diggs, the way he throws out these.
But again, look at the scoreboard we're putting out there. South Oak Cliff is the only one that seems like they're playing elite level defense. Melissa played very good defense for 2 straight weeks. I don't know that they can continue that. Randall, they can outscore you, and their defense is physical. But again, I'm thinking Sock Randall is going to be kind of like it was last year, probably in the mid 30s kind of a game. Bernie can score on you, but South Oak Cliff is the only team right now that has shown glimpses of elite level defense.
Yeah, their secondary is struggling a little bit at Randall, and but their defense does have Pac-Man. Norio Pac-Man Dominguez heading to TCU. So TCU fans come out for that one if it ends up happening. 4A Division I. Let's go through the Final Four here. We got Stephenville against Salina, Kilgore against Lavernia. We were hoping to see, well, we didn't really know what we were going to see with Alvarado Salina, but we were hoping to see Stephenville in there. We do. And now they're taking on a Salina team that's a little bit beat up. Gutierrez is beat up. They got Luke. How do you pronounce his last name?
Biagini. It's like
Biagini. They're big.
You gotta pretend like you're in an Italian restaurant. Biagini.
Luke Biagini, the 2-way player. He's really good at linebacker. Now he's getting a lot of the load there with Evan Keene at running back. But Bo Bentley went down. Again, second game in a row. Is he going to be back? My mind says yes, he will. He's not going to bow out of a game like this with a sore shoulder. I bet he gets in there, but the pendulum still kind of swings towards Stephenville, don't you think?
Let's give some of these names because you probably haven't heard a lot of the names. We're talking about Luke Biagini. Evan Cohen is kind of RB4 for Salina because both of their stud running backs that we saw against Sulphur Springs are not playing. And then the backup, Guarov Mudasero.
Yes, you get Mudasero. Now, how'd you get that name right, but you can't get Evan Keene right? That's how you pronounce that, Keene.
Keene?
Get it
Cohen?
right.
I was thinking the Cohen brothers.
Cohen brothers. All right. Well, he didn't have a brother, or maybe he does. I don't know.
Maybe he does. So those are the players, and it kind of reminds me a little bit. I was going back and I was doing my research, and I was reading an article that Greg Riddle wrote in 2019 about Chris Parsons and the Duncanville team, and how teams, when you lose your quarterback, how you do, and then it referred to 2008 Tucker Carter with Allen, and how Allen had some injuries. They had Matt Brown, who was a TCU commit, and then Tucker Carter comes out and leads them to a state championship. Salina is really kind of giving me these vibes because their offensive line is so good. It's like Prosper level. I mean, if you look at a map and you can see 289 Preston Road, Prosper to Salina, not very far. It's like the water up there is making some really big offensive linemen, or the mothers and fathers are making a big offensive line. I don't know what's making the offensive linemen out there.
I don't need to start teaching you birds and bees, not on this show. This is not for this show.
It's the Highway 289 offensive lineman life lessons that you need there. And that it's almost like when Bo Bentley got hurt, they got better because all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, we don't need to do all these fancy things that I talked about Southlake Carroll does and all this aggressive play. Let's just run behind our guys, take safe passes and go down the field. And all of a sudden they just blow out Alvarado when they kind of moved to that style. It was much closer in the first half because remember Alvarado, 75 yards, DeMarcus Belton scored, and I'm like, here we go. Then nothing. The defense stepped up. The offensive line, they dominated Alvarado. And then Stephenville, they struggled against West Plains for a little while. All of a sudden, I'm looking at scores. I'm seeing 21-7 West Plains in the second quarter. And all of a sudden, the style points that I keep talking about are not there. And then as I kind of dug into the game, Lee Passamore had a really good article which really highlighted that game. And Trot Jordan, the quarterback for Stephenville, threw a couple of early picks. Stephenville got behind, but they stuck with the system. And then by the fourth quarter, that game was a blowout. You cannot have the 2 turnovers. So Stephenville, we talk about it, it's so cliche. If Stephenville messes around with a beat up Salina team and gives them a couple of turnovers, Salina is absolutely good enough with or without Bo Bentley to win this game, base level as it is. So Stephenville cannot give Salina any gifts. But that being said, Stephenville is as healthy as they've been. They got a really good offensive line. Their infrastructure is just as good as Salina's. So I got to go with Stephenville because they're healthier.
Gotcha. I probably will too. That's the game I'll be at, and the lower half there. Kilgore is a team that's definitely not playing poorly. They're on top of their game right now. They're shutting defenses down here, and or offenses down. They took care of Crawford easily. Lavernia beats Davenport. I don't know if you know a lot about Lavernia. I certainly don't. But your thoughts on that one? It kind of looks like it's going to be a Kilgore against the winner Stephenville Salina
Yeah,
matchup.
Kilgore plays a style of football, and we're going to kind of talk about it. That when we get to Brock, they'll take on anybody. They play Carthage, they play Chapel Hill. They play a lot of really good teams to get them ready for this moment. And you can see how they dominated a Fort Bend Crawford team, which was probably one of your better Houston area teams in the 4A, and it wasn't even that close. Lavernia, I don't know much about them. It was an upset over Davenport. We had a couple of upsets this past week, but I think Kilgore is going to be a solid favorite. And again, we're talking about blue bloods. These are teams that are there year in and year out. So if Stephenville, Salina, Kilgore, those three teams are playing each other, it's going to be a packed house at AT&T because all of those programs will travel. They expect this. They've been there before, but it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be Stephenville, Kilgore, which would be a perfect meeting point. Like that's where they would probably naturally play is in Arlington.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. All right, 4A Division II. You brought them up. Let's talk Brock. Because they played Carthage last year, and it was ugly. There's some elements involved in it, but it was ugly. Carthage can do that to teams. Ken Brock, as you said, they're willing to get in a fight. They're willing to get into toe to toe with anybody. They're going up to toe to toe with the Giant right now. Your thoughts on that one?
They are, and when I was breaking down, I went to go look at the box score for this game in the Midland Greenwood box score, and I looked at that box score against Carthage last year, and I see a lot of seniors in Brock, and I see a lot of players who are still back at Carthage. So Carthage, bring back Jet Surratt, bring back KJ Edwards, bring back their other running back. I think his name is Benny Smith. I could be wrong on that, but it's like they bring everybody back from that team that dominated Brock, and Brock is all new players. Holt Frazier has played fantastic. Briar McDonald is a solid player, but how can this team, Brock, be even better than a blue blood in Carthage who brings everybody back last year? I really think Pleasant Grove had the best chance, and Brock is very similar to that Pleasant Grove style, how they can kind of go pound and ground. Briar McDonald, I think, had 41 carries in the game, or at least one of their running backs had 41 carries, kind of getting back to that Cam Newton style of offense. Brock has got to play a perfect game. In the Athens game, they had 2 pick sixes against them. Carthage against Pleasant Grove, they're scoring on the defensive side of the ball. Last year, the game against Brock and Carthage is scoring on the defensive side of the ball. This is what Carthage does, is that you got to play 48 minutes, and if you make a mistake, they know how to capitalize. Coach Surratt's going to have an amazing game plan. I actually talked myself out of picking Brock when doing the research. How can you pick against Carthage?
It's a scary deal when you go out there to play and you don't even have to know a single player on the team. You see the red C on their helmet, you're like, all right, we can't get behind them. Let's just be hyped up for the first. And then if they get a pick six or a turnover and all of a sudden it's 14-0, then all hope seems to drop to your belly there because it doesn't seem like it's a team you can come back against.
Right.
Any thoughts on Sinton and West Orange Star?
The computer polls have it's a pure 50-50 game. These are teams that have been there, kind of gets back into the Kilgore and Carthage and Brock. These are all teams that have been there. They expect to be there. Flip a coin with this one. I mean, it's going to come down to all of those intangibles. My heart is telling me I think I should take Sinton in this game. So I'll see if I can find an edge in breaking it down a little bit more when I got to do pick 'em. But because Goss, come on, Goss. You got to give me all the games this week. This is my chance to catch up. And you only give me 10. Come on, Goss.
And 8 of them, probably everybody's picking the same thing. So you know how he does it. All right, 3A Division I. There it is. The game you was at, Peaster, Paradise. Peaster comes out with a late last-second win. Grandview, they got Grandview next because they're taking on Pottsboro. Both the Houston teams were knocked out. On the lower half, Yoakum gets the revenge win over Columbus, and Lano takes out Edna. That was actually a really good game. I was watching the highlights of that the other day. That was pretty rock fight deal there, where they're just throwing it all over the place. But I want to hear what you think about Peaster and Grandview having, now that you're fully geared up with Peaster closed. Maybe it's obvious who you're going to pick. Do I need to get you some zebra stuff?
I got. We keep saying we need more officials, so hey, go out there and if you want to complain about the officials, go be an official. Peaster defense again is incredible. I got to watch it. They held Paradise, an incredibly explosive offense, down to 200 yards, and Grandview, they don't know how to play defense. But then you look all of a sudden in the second half against Pottsboro got nothing in that second half. Grandview plays up and down, and it's like still so hard to gauge Grandview. But the one thing that Grandview does have is they've been here before. I mean, they've won state championships. They've been on our country roads. They've been games of the week. They've been in the state semifinals and state finals. What was it, 2018 against Malakoff? We had Grandview Malakoff for state. So this is a team that has been there. The community expects it. They're back. I think they're unexpectedly back because they didn't even win their own district. Peaster didn't even win their own district too. We're talking about two seeds who kind of avenged themselves in their playoff run. And Grandview in the second half, they look like they got right. But all year I've been saying, I think when Region 1 plays Region 2, I've seen them both. Peaster has a high level of defensive intensity. Cade McCullough, Mark Tullis, my guys, they were incredible against Paradise. Paradise's last score was a 3rd and 19 blown coverage, which, hey, give them credit, they executed, but Peaster shut them down. I think Peaster, the game is going to get really fast when they play a Grandview defense that has been very porous this year. I think Peaster wins this game relatively convincingly, 10-14.
Yeah, I kind of like looking at this Final Four because there's not a lot that we've seen the last couple of years that made it to the state final. So whoever we see in that matchup, it's going to be new-ish.
For once, I'm tired of seeing all these repeat games, and just variations of colors. And here, for a Final Four that's brand new. Imagine a Yoakum Peaster or a Yano Peaster state championship. I mean, that's cinema right there.
That is cinema. Cinema. All right, let's move to 3A Division 2. We called it last week. We called it since week 1 of the playoffs. Wall Gunner. We got it. It's going to be out in Stephenville. Neil's going out there. Can't get my man Dixie to go out there. You never make it back in time. Lower side, you see East Bernard and Newton. East Bernard, the team that lost 58-6 to Tidehaven last time, and it pulls off the big-time upset. That's a huge upset down there. I don't know if they can keep it going against Newton, but let's hope. But I want to hear your thoughts on Wall Gunner.
I watched the Gunner Leonard game, and I got to be introduced to their players. Knox Gage, sophomore quarterback, he's going to be a factor as he gets a little bit older. Jay Campidi, phenomenal running back. Alex Finner was a wide receiver who did big things in that game. The defense was really good for Gunner. But one thing that I was shocked by, because Gunner's on 289. We talked about the birds and the bees of 289. Usually Gunner's offensive line kind of looks a little bit like Prosper, a little bit like Salina. They're not nearly as big as they've been in their championship runs. And I think that's going to be a little bit of a problem when they play a Wall defense that has only given up 14 points in the playoffs. And Wall's worst game this year was a 35-21 regular season game to Idalou. Idalou made it back to the regional finals. They won that game 48-7 in the kind of their lick back game. Wall is just, again, at a completely next level, playing incredible. Landon York, they'll sling it around. He went 16 of 27 for 407 yards and 4 touchdowns. Reed Robertson had 8 catches for 153 yards. I just can't see Gunner scoring consistently on Wall's defense, and I think Wall's going to be able to score on Gunner a bit. And again, I just go back to, I watched this game last year. Wall should have beat him last year, and that's with a Gunner offensive line that was a bit bigger, a lot of holdovers, a lot of experience from those state championship runs. I think the Gunner run ends to Wall. And we've been talking about this. You said week 1 of the playoffs. We pretty much penciled this in. Yeah. Some of our pencil-ins didn't work like Argyle, but this was one that was just inevitable. And we got it. It's here. It's not Canadian Gunner. It's Gunner Wall. And I think Gunner's running straight into the Wall. Whew, I hate taking non-DFW area teams, but calibration is what calibration is.
Unless it's Malakoff, then you'll pick them up.
That's a DFW area team, so that would fit within the schema of teams I take.
That's right. We're not getting into that right now, but that's right. You would do that. And that's probably our state championship game too, I would think. All right, 2A Division 1. West Texas, Hamilton, Joaquin against Refugio. I know nothing about these teams. I'm sorry, but I have to call upon small school Dixie to tell me what time it is.
I'm going to tell you, it's probably time to go to the next slide. I keep picking against West Texas. They keep winning. I'm going to do it one more time. We'll see if I feel like Hamilton is going to have a little bit of an edge. We talk about playoff Joaquin and playoff Tomball. Joaquin gets their lick back on St. Augustine. They beat Honeygrove. They look really good, but, Refugio, they've been there. They dominated Mason. Got to watch Matt Stepp and his call of that game. And, Refugio just looks like their next level. I think they'll take off Joaquin. I think the winner of the Region 3, Region 4 is probably your state champion. Maybe even convincingly so. I think Hamilton, West Texas, maybe a 60-40 edge toward Hamilton. The computer polls are leaning toward Hamilton, but again, West Texas has been playing really good football. That's Stinnett, West Texas. We're not just giving you a generic region out there. That's the name of their high school, Stinnett, West Texas High School in Stinnett, Texas. But I think Hamilton's going to win that game. But again, I think the bottom half of that bracket is where the money is made. But I'm more excited about that Division II bracket because we got a team. We got a team in this one. And we also got another team. We got, where we got storylines in Division II.
Oh, exactly.
Mount Enterprise. We got Keegan Ash, who's going for a state record. And we got Shiner.
Yeah, and Shiner. Who'll give you a shine if you don't watch yourself. You don't talk right. Munster gives Lindsay a second plate of sauerkraut and sends them on home. And they're going to be taking on Groover way far away from us. I hope somebody tweets well from that game. I know it's a Thursday, and Diggs is trying to say, well, you can go out there Thursday and come back. I'm not going to do it, Diggs. And I'm sorry, Munster fans, the Carney family. I love you guys for having me out there preseason, but I can't make it all the way out there.
So
I can make it to AT&T.
You're a videographer who freelances.
Yes, and watching this podcast, give me an email. Give me a text.
We might be able to work that in if you can understand the inside high school sports, kind of the game plan and do what Ward says in like a 5-minute phone call. We'll listen. He'll listen.
Okay, we'll listen. I'll take 45 seconds of highlights there. But tell me about tell me about Munster and Groover. What do you think about that one?
Munster should be a big favorite in that game. I'm more excited about Mount Enterprise. Shiner kind of gives me those Terry Bussey vibes because they got the best player on the field in Mount Enterprise. But after all of that,
Shiner knows it though. That's what makes you nervous. Shiner
knows it, and they shut down a Junction team that had been scoring high. And then Mount Enterprise in that second half, that game was like 52-38 in the first half, and I'm thinking, we might get 100 points here. But then all of a sudden, nothing in the second half from Mount Enterprise. So that makes me a little bit worried. Shiner's like a one-score computer favorite in that game. But again, my head says when you got Terry Bussey on the field, you take the best player on the field. So I'm going to probably be taking Mount Enterprise because Toller was a computer favorite over Terry Bussey, and you saw what Terry Bussey did in that game a couple of years ago. Yeah. So when you are in this small school, and this is even smaller than that was 2A Division I. We're in 2A Division II. Keegan Ash, I'm not betting against him. I don't care how good Shiner is.
There you go. And Shiner's thing is like, here, get your 88 yards. We'll stop the ball. You give the ball to your mom. And then we're going to go out here and we're just going to shut you down the rest of the way. We'll get all that hoopla out the way. It can either be that way or it can be let's shut them down the whole game, be up 4 scores, which they probably won't, and then let him have his 88 yards at the back end. Either way, it should be, like you said, it should be much watch if you can find it on your streams out there and take a look at this kid, Ash, he's about ready to break records here. It's going to be a record that many of us thought wasn't going to be broken for a little bit longer, but he's ready to get it. He's ready to get it. All right, Diggsy, that does it for this edition of Digging for Wisdom. I don't know if I'm going to see you at a game this week.
We may not. I may go Twitter red zone coverage. But I just have a random question for you because you're a producer. So I'm just thinking, if hypothetically, let's say Mount Enterprise wins that game, but he only gets 87 yards. So he's going to a state championship game, probably against Munster. Would you even have Pat mention that on the air? Like if you're
I thought you were going to ask. Well, if Munster, you got me saying Munster. If Munster wins and I have the full screen up saying they're playing, Mount Enterprise next, I will mention it there. I'll say, and you want to get out there because Caden Ash is so 5 yards away from breaking the record. Yeah, I thought you were going to ask me, am I going to shoot that game if Munster loses and it's Mount Enterprise against?
No, I'm just saying, would you actually show that highlight on the air, even though it's not a DFW area school that was a state record?
If I had the highlight, I would.
Okay.
Yeah, I need you to go down there and get me that highlight, whether it be on the phone, on your little phone deal, or whatever. Go get it for me. Bring it back. I gave you
I
a
was
mission.
talking about
Can
if
you
it was
do
against Munster. If they played Munster and
Yeah.
and you
I
would
definitely
put
mentioned
Munster
that.
on the air, so you'd mention it then.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I'd do an opening shot with them. It'd be I'll go all the way out on that one. Said something weird. All right, buddy boy. We'll see you for our last podcast next week when we talk about state finals.
That's why he's the wizard, ladies and gentlemen. He knows the state, and he will produce the whole state for us. We get a little glimpse into the mind of a wizard and into the madness of a professor. That's what we do here when we're digging.
Yeah, definitely madness of a professor, that's for sure. All right, buddy boy. We'll see you next week.
See you next week, Ward.